Hello everyone, this is Tim, and I'm back on my crappy webcam again, as you can tell. And it's also nighttime, and I'm outside. So you might hear some cars in the background, etc. But this is the time I found to make a video, and here I am. So today's Easter. I had to work, but it was a pretty good day overall. What I'm going to talk about is the games that I'm running currently, and just some thoughts and etc. on those games. So the only real fast moving game that I'm playing right now or running is my Lamentations of the Flame Princess game, and it has 4 members of the YouTube RPG brigade that are playing, and that is Zig or Zig Copacetic, Carl at Natural 20 Films, Ian at City Site 184, and Jeremiah, who's Ghoster 74. And that's all their usernames and channels on YouTube. So far we've played 3 sessions, and I'm having a blast running it, and I think all the guys are enjoying themselves, and I try to throw them different curveballs every session, so we'll see how that turns out. But I think everyone, by and large, is having a lot of fun, and we're playing like 2 to 3 times a month, probably closer to 2, depending on how schedules line up. And I'm going to run the game if I have 2 players. So if 2 people can't make it, but 2 other ones can, I'm going to run the game. So we'll see, who shows up the most and how that works out. But it's been going well. I'm having a lot of fun. And if you are interested, I have the audio recordings up, and I'm using a program called CallGraph, and that records audio on Skype. And so far, it seems to be a pretty easy program to use, and it makes pretty good recordings. So I recommend that program if you can find it. It's a free program. So that's my Skype game. Now, all my other games are play-by-post games. And some people like them, some people, despise play-by-post games. They do have a good/bad thing about them, and that is that they're slow. But for someone who can't make videos all the time because of my son, can't just play games whenever I want to, and a lot of times my wife is home and she wants me to hang out, so I can't really play games, but I can kind of squeeze in a little gaming on forums. So play-by-post games are a lot of fun for me, and it's an avenue for me to play where I normally wouldn't be able to. So I want to talk about those games that I'm running or playing in. The first one that's been going on for several years now, I think it's up to 3 or 4 years, is my Burning Heaven setting. The Joshua Ansjar is the name of the setting. And I've done videos on that before. I had a website for it, but that kind of went down when the host of the website went down. I do have a new host, and it's statted for a different system, but you can get the gist of that. I'll put that down below. Basically, it's a fantasy setting that's new, and it's very young. So a lot of the races haven't intermingled or dealt with one another. A lot of the things about the gods are questionable. They're really not sure how they work, what their goals are, what they want from the mortals, etc. And the game that I'm running is very epic in scope, and it's basically a bunch of emissaries or ambassadors from all the different races, or at least some of the different races, that have gathered together and are trying to fight off the Gulanamia is the name, and that's actually Sumerian for destroy everything. The idea of the Gulanamia is that, it's funny, I usually do these on play-by-post, but I don't actually say them out loud, but the Gulanamia are rumored to be old gods that ruled the world before, and these new gods are here now. So they want to destroy everything. They want to basically destroy the current incarnation of the world so that they can remake the old version. And that is just one theory. Another one is that they're basically just like powerful demons, just antitheses of the gods, etc. So it's a lot of fun to see what the players do, and there's a lot of xenophobia, as the cultures interact with each other, and it's tough, especially if they haven't spoken the language before. So it's an interesting game in that there's a lot of diplomacy, alliances, there's battles and war before maybe they want to talk to you. And it's a pretty slow-moving game, but it's like I said, I've been playing it and running it for years, so it's a lot of fun. When my personal life took a right down the shitter move. My life got really rough there for a while. I stopped running it, and one of the players stepped up to run it in my absence, and I was able to come back after life had settled down a little bit, and I was very glad for that. So I give props to J.A.R.P on the Real Role-Playing forums, and I'll put links to these down below in case you want to look at them. And the nice thing about play-by-post games is that everything is there, so if you're curious about running a play-by-post game, all you really need to do is just check and just scroll through them. It's a lot of reading, but if you're into that sort of thing and you want to learn, it's basically just me running a game in type. That's pretty much it. Another game that's been on and off again for a while is my Firefly or Serenity RPG. That is the Old World of Darkness and the Serenity RPG sort of hybrided together, Frankenmonster together. So that's a lot of fun. I believe currently I'm a player. We sort of have this thing where we're kind of switching off with GMing duties, but I'm sort of the fall guy, the plan B right now if the other GM can't run it. So, but that's been going on for a while, and Brady 23 Penguins 32 played in it. Durb ran, and it was a lot of fun when he was there. It's cycled through players. Sometimes it went really quickly, and right now it's kind of in a slow mode. And I've invited a few more RPG Brigade members to play. I'm not sure if they will. Sometimes invites for play-by-post games get, people say, oh yeah, I'll play, and then they just never show up. So, it's the internet. That kind of stuff happens. The next game I'm running is Strangers in a Strange Land. And this is going to be the first time that I've ever ran a hex crawl. And the only other time I've heard of hex crawl is from old school blogs and from Azurk83, Aaron, the Frognard, Fighter Mage Cleric, I think is what he goes by now. He's had several channels, but he talked a little bit about hex crawls before. And the idea is that you start out in one hex, and it's so many miles, or some sort of distance, anywhere from 3 to 6 miles normally, I believe. And then depending on where the group goes, that's what you show them. That's it has a very exploratory theme to it, and every hex should be keyed to like one or two things. So like one or two things are in that hex, and they're probably going to encounter them depending on their what the choices that they make. So it's very sandboxy, very wherever they want to go kind of thing, feeling to it. So I'm experimenting with that just to see what it's like. I know some people think that it's the idea of a hex crawl is a little old-fashioned. They'd much rather it be, more opened up and, I don't know. But I'm experimenting with it. I've never ran a game like this before, and the only part of the map that the group knows of is now 2 hexes. So they have the starting hex where they there's like a portal that they came in. And they really don't remember a lot about their past, and their memories are starting to filter in as time goes on. So that's kind of fun too. And there's all kinds of different weird things. I used Hexographer, and I'll link that below as well in the dungeon, if I remember. It's a lot of fun to make up a map that way. There's different keyed, images for the different terrains. So that was a lot. I'd spent a few hours, doing that, so it was a lot of fun. So that's my hex crawl game, and that's using Novus, which is a game designed by Tim Duggar, who did a lot of stuff with the Rolemaster games, high adventure role playing, and now he has his own company, Firehawk Games, and he donated free website space for me to host my Burning Heaven setting and my Marth Iceworld setting, and I have those translated to Novus as well, although I still need to do some work. Working on settings is one of those things that I always love doing, but sometimes I'm just not in the mood, and whenever I am in the mood, I tend to be sort of obsessive and compulsive about it, where I'll work on it for like 2 weeks straight, and then I don't know if I just burn myself out or what, but I gotta kind of put it on the back burner for a while and do some other stuff. But yeah, I'm running that, and the next game that I'm going to be running is Middle-earth set in the First Age, and I've always wanted to do this. Whenever I read the Silmarillion, which I've probably read about anywhere from like 15 to 20 times, I'm not even sure anymore. It's one of my favorite books by Tolkien. It's a tough read, but but it's sort of like Tolkien's Old Testament for Middle-earth. There's a lot of stuff in there about the gods and the elves, the creation of the dwarves. You can hear some vehicles behind me. but but yeah, it's just a great read. It's very expansive, over thousands and thousands of years, eons even perhaps. But the time frame I'm going to be setting this in the first age is right after the fourth battle, which is the Dagger Bragalach, the Battle of Sudden Flame, I believe is what it is. And this deals with Morgoth, the enemy of the world. He's basically a more powerful version of Sauron. So there's a lot of room there, I believe, for me. There's a lot of space in the text that they fast forward over hundreds of years, and I think there's a lot of room there. And I also told the players that this is going to be my version of Middle-earth. And I've talked about this before, where if you're running a published setting, or like Middle-earth is sort of like one of the most popular fantasy settings there is, you have to sort of lay down some ground rules. And I told them that, this is going to be my version of it. There's going to be things in my game that, Tolkien probably never intended, or that he might have only loosely alluded to. I'm going to have a lot of fun, I think, with the, I don't know, I'm not pronouncing this right, but Maiar. They're basically like the lesser versions of the Valar. The Ainur, I believe is how they pronounce it. Ainur is sort of like the umbrella term. Then there's the Valar, and Valar, and then there's the Maiar. That's how I've always pronounced it, but I've never been good with language, and I'm sure some Tolkien geek out there will be like, dude, you're totally mispronouncing that, and I apologize. But the Maiar are these lesser spirits, and there's several references in the Silmarillion that, Morgoth or Melkor has a lot of these spirits. He has the Balrogs, which are these kinds of things, and so is Gandalf, actually. And Saruman and those sorts of things. But there's all these different ones that they allude to and don't talk about. Inhabiting like for instance, the Eagles, I believe, are inhabited by these Maiar. The Ents, I believe, are as well. Spirits from the outside world that have indwelled in something in Middle-earth. And I think there's a lot of room there to make some sort of like dire creature, sort of like the Karkaroth, the werewolf in the first age of Silmarillion. He's an example. So I'm going to have a lot of that. There's a lot of leeway there to make up my own hideous creatures. There's always the spiders and things like that as well. Dragons. I'm sure there's some dragons that never were talked about. So unlike the third age that's sort of narrowed in scope, the first age is very expansive. And by picking a part of the story after the fourth battle, that's going to be the point where Tolkien stops and our chronicle begins, or my version of Middle-earth begins. So it's quite possible that, depending on what the characters do, the One Ring may never be made. And that's something that's cool to think about, an alternate history of Middle-earth. So I'm very excited to run that. I'm going to be running that on my GAS forum. And I'm going to be using the Age of Shadow RPG, which is sort of an unofficial first age hack, I guess you could say, for Middle-earth. It's not as detailed as I would like, so I've added in some house rules for the races. And, I've brought in a few things from basic role-playing because it's a D100 roll-under engine. But I'm excited, and there's some people that are playing in that. And the only game, other than like that Firefly thing where I'm, running / playing sometimes, that I'm actually just straight playing, is a game called Urutsk. It's like this sci-fantasy setting that somebody on G Plus is running. Can't remember her name right now. She's gonna hate me, but it's a lot of fun. I'm playing a professor who knows a lot about strange cultures and strange creatures and plants, and I'm sort of adventurous and curious at the same time. So there's a little bit of Indiana Jones in there as well. But I'm definitely like a science geek, and that's been a lot of fun. I'm playing with one other player who is a psychic. So we have a strange combination of abilities, and there's some NPCs that are traveling with us, but that's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't want to bore you too much, but those are the games I'm running, and I'll try to include links below. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.